It is day 171 of the second Trump administration, and here's what we saw earlier. Donald Trump escalating his new strategy of trying to define global trade with another letter campaign. This morning, he posted letters to more countries to inform them of the new tariff rate on their goods if they do not make a deal with us by August 1st. Those countries were the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Moldova, Brunei, Libya, Iraq, and Algeria. For the record, none of those countries are among the United States' top 30 trading partners. This, while the White House still needs to make deals with many, many crucial countries. But what are they doing? Sending letters to Moldova and Brunei. But then this afternoon, Trump did address a major U.S. trading partner, Brazil. He plans to hit Brazil with a whopping 50% tariff rate. Trump says it is partly because of how the country has treated its former leader. Former president and dear Trump ally Bolsonaro is facing charges that he plotted to overturn his election loss back in 2022. Trump called for an end to that trial and ordered an investigation of Brazil's trade practices towards the U.S. Earlier at the White House, Trump was asked if there was a formula he used to come up with these tariff rates, and I want to share his response.
The formula was a formula based on common sense, based on deficits, based on how we've been treated over the years, and based on raw numbers. They're based on very substantial facts and also past history. You look at the past history, we never had anybody in the White House that understood the numbers or were into it like I.
And tonight, the president announced online that on August 1st, he will put a 50% tariff on all copper, as he talked about yesterday. By the way, today was the original White House deadline for countries to make trade deals before those huge tariffs went into effect. And as the Washington Post puts it, they came up 88 deals short of their 90 deals in 90 days promise. Trump now has his new August 1st deadline in place, but it doesn't seem like anybody, or at least anybody that's a stakeholder, expects him to stick to it. With that, let's bring in our nightcap. It is a great one. NBC political reporter Alan Smith, Dan Nathan, CNBC contributor and co-host of the Risk Reversal podcast, and Isaac Arnsendorf joins us, national political reporter for The Washington Post. He co-authored the new book, a must-read summer book, 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America. All right, Dan, we're going to get to Brazil in a moment, and I really want to talk about Brazil. But what does it tell you? Right? Today was the day that we were supposed to have the pause was over. And instead, he has this letter writing campaign. And the countries he chooses are Brunei and Moldova. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's about like a fraction of 1% of the trade that we do here, the trillions of dollars, right? So as far as I'm concerned, it's just, you just said it, it's like 90 deals in 90 days, and here we are with 2. And I think the most important thing is that none of the folks that we expected to come to the table, some of our biggest allies, who he started with, right? It's Canada, it's Mexico, it's the EU. They don't seem to be any closer than they were 90 days ago to striking a deal. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact they're looking around and just saying, like, okay, let's just see if we're going to have the taco trade again, right? If we're going to see if he's going to kind of push out. And they just did that. So the credibility, I think, of the White House is not particularly great. We have Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, come on TV almost every day. Secretary Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he's not that convincing about the process in which they are going about doing this. We were hearing that there was going to be a bunch of deals in the next couple of days. That's what Bessent said on Sunday. So we don't have them. So I don't think any of our big trading partners who are our allies are in any rush to sort of do this. And then we got to go back to China, because that was the one in early May.
There was a reason why we were doing this.
Right.
Where, let's be clear, there are very unfair trade practices. Right. It would be great to address it.
Right. And so, again, the fact that he started with our allies, those are the ones that he was talking tough with, and then he kind of pushed out the Chinese ones. But we're going to be very quickly on that deadline with China, and they are not going to be moving. They have the leverage. We've been talking about it on the show for a very long time. Those rare earth materials that we need to go into so much of our manufacturing of some really, really key sort of things, whether it's our defense infrastructure, whether it's a whole host of other things in technology, consumer electronics. cars, that sort of thing. The list goes on, and our manufacturing could really suffer. And the whole idea is to bring manufacturing back here to the States. If we don't have those rare earth materials, we are really stuck in a bit of a pickle.
Let's go back to that soundbite we just played of President Trump, and he was talking about the formula, and he said, nobody understands it like me. Nobody focuses on it like me. I'm the one doing it. Yet, he makes the big announcement yesterday. He sends out the letters today, and markets said, go fish. They are completely unbothered. I went through it last night. Note by note from every major investment bank basically said, yeah, I get it. He's got the executive order. He's sending these letters. We don't think he's going to do it. How do you think the president is going to react to the fact that his big bad threats are being ignored? He is being treated like the boy who cried wolf.
Well, on the other hand, he doesn't mind because he doesn't want the markets to crater, which is what happened when everyone did believe it, right?
Good point.
But you're right. I mean, he views these tariffs as like the hammer that he has, right? Like this is his tool, this is his leverage. And when he loses that credibility, when people stop taking it seriously, that makes it, then he doesn't have that upper hand anymore.
All right, well, then let's talk about credibility as it relates to Brazil. The president goes ballistic about the U.S. trade deficit with every country. That's the reason he wants to do this. But for fact's sake, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative says that last year we had a $7 billion trade surplus with Brazil. And in his letter, Trump also raises, I said it a moment ago, the former President Bolsonaro's prosecution. Doesn't this show that this isn't about trade deficits? This is about the president yielding his power. He's saying he doesn't like how the former president is being treated. He wants the trial being canceled. And that's how he now plans to use our trade policies for his political agenda?
I mean, look, Stephanie, it's a great point. He's being very clear that the actions on Brazil don't have anything to do with trade, right? It's about the handling of the criminal charges against President Bolsonaro.
Which has nothing to do with U.S. manufacturing,
Absolutely.
U.S. consumers, or U.S. jobs.
And it gets to, I think, something Isaac was talking about, right? He sees tariffs not as something to kind of change this whole array of unfair trade practices, but they are a tool that he has to wield power and bring people to the table, right? But by continuing to delay this, not implement them, go back on his word, these countries are going to be sitting there, markets aren't reacting, right? But these countries are going to be sitting there being like, okay, how fast do we need to make a deal? Because if he continues to push the deadline back, where is the impetus for them to come to the table and be like, no, we have to make a deal. We have to make a deal.
Okay, well, Trump now has his spending bill passed. His tariffs in his own way are moving forward. He can no longer say any of this economy is Joe Biden's economy. So how do you assess what we have in front of us?
It's actually okay right now. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, we've seen unemployment kind of be static here. It's not kind of moving one way or another. We've seen inflation kind of go in the right direction. Obviously the big question here is if we don't have these trade deals, if they keep some of these tariffs in place, if they put reciprocal tariffs in place, then you do have inflation sort of ticking up. You also have, the White House really stepping up as far as deportation. And that's something that a lot of key businesses here in the U.S. rely on. Obviously, we've seen agriculture. They've been lobbying the president. They're going to have to get a bailout. What does it mean in hospitality? There's a whole host of different industries here in the U.S. that are going to have a really hard time. Labor has been a big source of inflation, right? You throw these taxes on, and that's what they are. Make no mistake about it. Somebody has to eat those tariffs, right? Whether it's the supply chain, whether it's the importer, and whether it's a consumer. And so
most likely a combo of all three.
Right. And listen, that's not great for economic growth here. It's not great for economic growth around the world. And so if we think about this economy, that's doing okay. Like make no mistake about it. He's got a tailwind from this tax bill, at least the way CEOs are thinking about it, at least the way high-earning consumers are thinking about it. We saw what happened in 2017, 2018. It actually worked for consumer confidence, for business confidence, that sort of thing. And then if you put together what he's been able to accomplish geopolitically, and I'm not saying this is some, worthiness of a Nobel Peace Prize or anything like that, but he's got some clout right here. He's got some political capital. And the one thing, and this is what Isaac just said, I think with the stock market at all-time highs, he can kind of feel that a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. The stock market has rallied 30% from those lows. Interest rates, right? We were talking about the really interest rates. The bond market is the thing that spooked him. He said it got a little squeezy or something like that or whatever. Well, yields are just flat from that period.
Yes.
They're not doing anything. The dollar weakness, that's something that was definitely going haywire in early April. That's actually good for the U.S. economy. It's good for U.S. multinationals that sell a lot overseas, right? So you think about it, there's a lot of things going in their direction, and I don't believe they're going to screw it up too badly. I don't believe, going back to your point, that, you know, I just don't think people believe that whatever he's going to do, as far as it relates to the market and the economy right now, is going to put us in the situation where we were in early April. So that's not a bad place to be very honest with you.
Well, then let's talk about Scott Bessent, because right now he, as Treasury Secretary, is stepping up his criticism of Fed Chair Jay Powell. That is not something we normally see from any Treasury Secretary. So at this point, we can no longer say, which we've been saying from the beginning, listen, Scott Bessent knows best. He's the adult in the room. He's the one who kind of reins in the president. At this point, given that he defends the president on tariffs all day, every day, no matter what, given that he stood by the president for this spending bill, when even though Scott Bessent's whole thing was he was the most worried about the fiscal cliff and government spending, clearly he's not that worried about that anymore. When you look at how he's positioning himself, is he just auditioning for the Fed chair? By the way, when I tried to report it 2 months ago that he was eyeing the Fed chair, his office denied it. No one's denying it now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And we know that there's other folks that are auditioning. I think that Kevin Warsh would be actually a pretty great choice. I think whoever takes the job is actually going to have a lot of pressure. They're going to immediately have to lower interest rates. One thing's that really important to remember, they lowered interest rates, Fed Chair Powell, last year, 100 basis points,
Yes.
right? From 5.5% down to 4.5%. And you could say that was political. That's at least what the Republicans are saying right now.
They think it was very political.
They think it was political in front of the election. But there's something really important here. They have a term as it relates to monetary policy, the long and variable lags of that policy. So if you think cutting interest rates is stimulative for the economy, it's not going to be stimulative right here and right now. It takes a while for those cuts to cycle their way into the economy. So right now, I mean, there's some criticism of Fed Chair Powell, a lot of criticism, that he's being political once again by not lowering interest rates. But here's one thing that Fed Chair Powell knows. He got a lot of criticism in 2021 for being late to battle inflation, late to be raising interest rates off of a 0% bound, especially as we had
And there's
all of
so
that
much
stimulus.
unknown ahead of us.
Right. So I think that he's waiting to see how the tariffs work, you know, how this deportation stuff works, how the economy is going to react to a situation that could be inflationary.
He said it last week. He may have cut rates already, but he's facing this potential trade war, so he's got to wait and see. All right, new topic. The President's Department of Justice has confirmed that former FBI Director Jim Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan are under criminal investigation. It is unclear why. And the New York Times is reporting that the Secret Service tailed Comey's car and tracked his phone. We are now facing a situation where even Trump's base isn't necessarily feeling good about the DOJ. Are they all going to feel good about this?
I mean, these are original characters in the revenge tour, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes,
James Comey, John Brennan, if you go all the way back to before Trump was president in 2016, these guys were public enemy number one among the MAGA base. So it's always going to get some amount of fanfare from, you know, the president's supporters to go after these guys. And we saw what happened after James Comey posted that Instagram, right?
Yes.
The 86-47. I mean, that really seemed to spark all of this stuff with him. Brennan being dragged in right now. They're really trying to redo a lot of the Russia stuff with what the CIA had come out and said. So, I mean, this is par for the course, but this is a key part of the revenge tour that was really promised during the campaign.